Hi BookTube and happy Sunday. I'm here to do a mid-month check-in of sorts. I know I checked in last week catching up on how my month of reading went in June and a bit of what I read in July, but I thought I would sit down and do a proper video of the books I've read. So I am participating in the DeckofTBRathon and I've been drawing from my fun deck of cards here. And I would love to get through the whole deck. Like that's always like my mini goal. It's not possible, but it's fun to think about. So I have so far drawn this amount, whatever this is, and I've been keeping track of it. And so the DeckofTBRathon is where the number of the card or the face determines what you are reading. Actually, I think I mentioned this before, but I have a prompt. And so you can collect points for this, but I'm not doing it that way. I'm just using it as a journey through my reading. So here's some of them, for example. Let's see. So it always gets brighter than what I set it to. But here is some of the examples. Hopefully it focuses on that enough for you to see. So I've been trying to, since I'm not focused so much on the points, I'm trying to, for each, like, you know, there's four of the same number. Does that make sense? Hold on. Yeah, so there's 4 8s, 4 9s, etc. And so I'm trying to do each of the mini prompts. So like there's 1 point, 3 point, and 5 point. I'm trying to do one at least for each of the number of the cards I draw. Does that makes any sense? Just for the variety on top of the extra variety of not knowing what I'm going to pick next. Although I do have some goals in mind because I am participating in Jane Austen July, one of my favorite reading events, and thoroughly enjoying that. I'm also, I haven't yet picked the Christmas in July book, and I also kind of like in the back of my mind want to participate in Summerween, like the spooky thriller books and things. But for that one, I've read quite a few books from like May on in that genre, so it's like I want to read at least one book for that event, but it's not the top of my priority. But all that to be said, so I've been keeping track of what I've been reading. So I write down like the face card or the number of the face card, and then I have the whatever that point is, and then the title of the book. And I've been color coding it per day, so all the ones in the same color are the ones I've drawn for each day. And I've dropped some books here and there. For example, I dropped Villette by Charlotte Bronte because it wasn't the right time, and I switched it for an audiobook. And then speaking of audiobooks, this audiobook I dropped for a Jeopardy history book on the game show. So so those are the two that I've obviously DNF'd. There's some other ones that I've picked up and like not immediately, but I was like, yeah, no. And so I don't count them as read like on my tracker, but I'm just like moved on to the next card on here. So even though there's more than 14 books on here, I have read 14 books total, and there are some books that are on the go. For example, one of the first cards I drew fit for the Harry Potter reread I'm doing, A Goblet of Fire. For this reading event, you need to read at least 50% of the book. And so I was already a bit into this book, but I still had more than 50% to go. And so when I drew a card that fit with it, I slotted that in. So there's a couple books I'm still in the middle of here, but this is pretty much what I've been focusing on. But instead of like just reading my handwriting, which I try and keep it as neat as I can because I have really bad handwriting, so I try to keep it in cursive because my print is awful. So I just want to give you an idea of what I've been going through. And yeah, and we'll just go into the book. So I've read 14 total. And what is it today? The 19th. And so there's a little bit left of the month to go. So let me see here. Now I can show you like the actual pictures for the book covers. And I don't want to go through all of them, but some of the standouts. So my first week, I started with a children's book, Jacob Have I Loved. This was a retelling of like the biblical story of the. I'm rereading the Bible too, but not counting for this reading event. Oh my gosh, the two brothers where one is like being favored and the other one is like sent off. Caleb and Oh my goodness. Anyway, y'all, anyone knows like the biblical stories, you'll know what I'm talking about. But anyway, in this one, there is a favored daughter and one that's not so much, who has to like scramble to find her way. It was interesting. Not for some reason not as memorable as I would like, but I'm remembering it off now. I don't know how much I'll remember 6 months from now, because when I saw the title, I was like, what is this? But it's a seafaring tale of sorts, because it's taking place on the town that's on the water, and so the unfavored daughter kind of follows in the father's footsteps of like trying to learn how to operate the boats and earn a living that way. I then started the Margot Affair by Sine Lemain. I think it's a French book. I read this because I found it on one of my favorite food, it's like not too right, one of my favorite food blogs, Smitten Kitchen. I have made many a recipe from her, and I've been following her since 2012, I think, but I randomly was looking at one of her recipes and she happened to mention a book. And I was like, and it's how it has a lot of food writing in it. So I thought I would give it a go, but it's just not, I think the brightness is still too much. It keeps flickering back and forth. But it was just not for me. I'm not a literary fiction. I can be, but on the general, like modern literary fiction, not so much. But this was just, I understood how the writing was very descriptive, and it had its own tone, it had its own voice, but I did not like the characters or the storytelling. Its father is a mother and a daughter, and the mother has had an affair in the past and produced the daughter, and now the daughter is trying to reconcile her place in society and her relationship with her mother. And just some of the language is very, I don't know, crude in a way, and I just did not care for it. I had a hard time pushing my way through it. And then I read, so for that one, I kind of like, I just skimmed through the last part of it. I was just not a fan. I then read an old-time favorite. This is a reread for me, because I'm slowly making my way through this series, the Betsy Tacy series. This is Betsy Was a Junior by Maud Hart Lovelace. And she's now, it's in the middle of the series, so I don't know how much to talk about, but she's now met her love interest, gotten more of in a friendly manner with him. And so, you know how the story is going to progress, but I love these books, and I've really been digging into Maud's biography, like her, I wish there, maybe, let me know if any Betsy Tacy fans are out there. Is there a proper biography of the author? Because I was digging into the Betsy Tacy Society that's in Mankato, Minnesota, but I want to know more, like comparing the fiction versus what really happened, because so much of this is based on her real life. And then I have, instead of showing the picture, I can actually show you the physical copy. I read Ghost Ways, Two Journeys in Unique, Unquiet Places by Robert McFarlane, Stanley Donwood, and Dan Richards. The Robert McFarlane name is what caught my eye with this, but it's a slim book, but it's even slimmer when you look at how it's laid out. There is so much blank spaces. There's a lot of this throughout this book. There's so many blank spaces. Like this could have been even half the size. This was not for me at all, even though like the description sounds really like up my alley in a way. It says a hauntingly beautiful diptych. I don't know what that means. Maybe like dichotomy of two stories of works inspired by Robert McFarlane's travels with celebrated collaborations to two eerie corners of England. I was all for that. It's like there's two different stories, Holloway's and Ness, with like the folktale, and there's one of them is where like there's this old walkway that's been walked on so much that like all the ground is gone. It's like you're down to the bare stone. But this was just not for me. I like nature writing and having a sense of place, but this just did not do it for me. And thank goodness I didn't pay anything for it. I'm pretty sure I got this from a little free library, so it's just gonna title its way back. But I can recommend Robert McFarlane. He has written books I have enjoyed, and this is a really pretty copy, but yeah, just not for me. And typically if I knew it was so much of a folktale kind of focus, I wouldn't have picked this up at all, free or not, because that is not my jam. And then I read one that definitely was up my alley. This is Still Meadows Seasons by Gladys Taber, illustrated by Edward Shenton. And I am, before this year, I have been reading Gladys Taber higgledy-piggledy, like random books here and there, but on Goodreads, and I think, you know, with how Gladys Taber laid these out, most, but not all of the Still Meadows season books, not Still Meadows season, Still Meadow books are laid out in order of when she published them. But there's some that are like not part of the series for whatever reason that are have Still Meadow in the title. So this, I think, is like book 3 or 4 in that series, and it follows like a the same layout as all the other ones, where you're following a year in her life, and with lots of pretty illustrations. These are like pretty quiet, simple kind of stories talking about the dogs and the cats and what they're up to and what they're planting and what they're cooking. And I just love that time capture in a way, and just like you're sitting down with like your grandma. But actually, when speaking of that, she is much younger in this one. Because a lot of the older books, she has like these, like, she definitely looks like her grandma, whereas this one, not so much. But this is an old library edition, and it has like the due dates and everything with like the library card, and so that was really cool. This book was checked out in July 30th, 1968, and then again on August 1st. So I don't mind this library edition because it's in there's no like markings on it. There's no like gaudy or like obtrusive sticker or anything. It's just the simple sticker and things. I wish they would do that currently. Why is there stickers and stuff all over? Like, why can't it just be in the back like this? Like, yes. But anyway, and I like how it has like the laminated dust jacket, and it's all. And this is an older book, but kept in really nice condition. And so let's see, what else did I read? I then read a book more for like the summer ween. I guess you could count it for that. It's like a gothic mystery story, a British mystery. This is Last Respects by Catherine Aird. I had a copy of this, but I got rid of it because I was going to some little free library, so I just took it with me because I knew I wasn't going to keep it. But I really like the cover because it has this like this guy in a boat, and then there's this dead body floating, which the cover intrigued me. And it was talking about, it was like a celebrated, one of the very best of British mysteries. But the writing was just okay. Even though it had a suspenseful story, I didn't feel the suspense. It's following a little British town, and there's a body that's found in the water, and you're following these different characters. Like there's like like the people who saw the body, the person who like stumbled upon it, the different fishermen, and you're following the detectives. But I just didn't, there was no, it just felt flat to me. So I had this book and one other by her, and I just sent them back to little free libraries. I read Buffalo Girls by Larry McMurtry. This was remaining from June on the Range TBR that I had. I wanted to read like a Larry McMurtry. In May, I reread Moving On, and then I want to continue on with that series. I think I read one other was by him too, from that little mini series. But this one is one of his like historical fiction tales, and it's following the Buffalo Girls, like several women who were like some of them were the running the houses for men, and some of them were like the rough and outdoorsy women. But it was interesting enough, but not one of my favorites from him. If you want to read a historical fiction book by Larry McMurtry, all the way Lonesome Dove, and I've read that one several times for June on the Range, but I wanted to read something different for this June on the Range. I then read Pride and Prejudice, and I had mentioned how I found this for $1 at the library, so I got it. This is the annotated edition by David M. Shapard. I've read another annotated edition, like a big coffee table size book, but I knew these were out. These were published as well when I bought that edition that had like colored illustrations, and so I liked how it gave you plenty of room for the annotations and the pictures, because it's it's just a bigger format. Where these were black and white, so I didn't pick up these books because there's a whole series for each of her books are published in each of these editions. But as you can see from the cover, how they have these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, like giving you these different notes. I was driven batty by for the physical edition, how the font is. So you have like the normal font, which is kind of small, but then you have like the itty bitty font of the notes. So and then also, so then I switched to the ebook of this book, where you would just tap on the number to go to the annotations, but the numbers are like every other sentence. And I couldn't take it. Like, it was just so distracting. I wasn't always clicking the numbers. Anyway, like this is a reread. I read this like, I don't know, 10 times. It's my favorite Jane Austen book. So yeah, I ended up dropping the ebook version of this, and just going straight to the plain Jane version and making my way through it. And yeah, it holds up as always. And then let's see, I'm now reading Persuasion by Jane Austen, but I just want to read all of her books. I'm just in a mood. I want to run through all of them. So after Persuasion, I'm thinking of going to Northanger Abbey. I then read Country Editor's Boy by Hal Borland, and here's the author on the back. This is written in 1970, but it's about his boyhood in 1915 to 1918 in small town Colorado, eastern Colorado, on the plains, and his family moves from one small town to the other because his father wants to be a successful local newspaper man, and so he moves to a town where there are currently a newspaper running, but he's gonna make his newspaper successful. And so Hal is I think he's like 12 or 13 at the time, so he's becoming more mature and going through school and trying to figure out what he wants to do, and meeting like the local townspeople and meeting the friends, and there's a school that's just being built, and it's just really same as the Still Meadow books. This just gives you a really good sense of time and place. Hal Borland also has written nature books and other biographies and fiction books. So he's written same as Gladys Taber as well. She's written all those kind of genres, and so these they're hard to feel like find in bookstores sometimes, because you can find them in the different sections depending on what you're looking for. But I've read many books about Hal Borland, and I have several more to go. These were both prolific authors, and so in a good way, because I have so much more from them to read. I was then listening to Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney. This was a very popular book. Again, the lighting has changed. This was a very popular book last year when it came out. And I like the cover. It reminds me of, there's a bind-up edition where these colored stripes. It includes all of her major works. But this was fascinating because this is following a rare book dealer, and I really like those bits in particular because that's not a world I know. I'm not someone who buys first edition, signed or rare books, antique books. There's plenty of stores here like that. I went to one yesterday, actually. And speaking of Gladys Taber, the guy was saying he had just bought a stack. He said a stack of Gladys Taber books, but he didn't keep them. He said he sold them immediately to an online dealer. So I'm like, oh, I would have purchased some of those. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so there's plenty of stores like that here, but I gravitate towards the preferably $10 or less books. Like, you're not gonna find rare first edition anything, and I don't really care about that either. But I am intrigued to read about it, to learn about it, and see. There's different editions of Pride and Prejudice, for example, different covers, different printings, ones with different notes. That are valuable for one reason or another. So I found that really interesting. But she also talks about, this mainly is the books that Jane Austen herself was reading and possibly inspired by. And so I wrote down several books from this that I want to dig into, and I just want to live in if I had the time, by the rest of the month, I want to read all of Jane Austen and then read several of these just to compare and see if I can make the connections that she was making, and if I see anything else as well, and just to broaden my knowledge of this time period, because it's not one I've only dabbled in it here and there. I've not made a focus like this author was. I did listen to an audiobook by Katie DiCamillo, Louisiana's Way Home. This was very interesting because it follows a young girl, and she is off on an adventure with her grandmother, and her grandmother has this extreme medical emergency in the middle of them driving in the night. So they get stopped in a random small town far away from anything that Louisiana has known, and then the mother has the grandma has a medical procedure and kind of just like leaves her all by herself basically, and just like kind of just disappears. And so it was a bit unbelievable, but the story writing, and Katie DeCamillo writes wonderful children's books. This one just wasn't. You have to suspend your disbelief for what would really happen if someone just dropped off like that in a sense. But it was still really good. And then I read Witness to the Civil War, first-hand accounts from Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper, published by the Smithsonian. Like I mentioned before, I'm trying to get through my coffee table books. And this has so many illustrations of what was printed in the newspapers. This is Insurrection, Siege, and Union Advance. There's tons and tons of notes and battle descriptions of what each picture is portraying, and I just like the amount of artistry that went into these like just daily newspapers is just crazy to me. So it was really, really cool to flip through. I wish it was in color, but this is, you know, because sometimes the black and gray, just constantly flipping through it, can kind of just muddle in a way. When I was looking at it, the color would make it pop and you could see more depictions, I feel like, of more detail of what's going on, but it was still really good. And then the last book I've completed so far is a book I've been wanting to read for the last couple of summers. This is May Sarton, The House by the Sea. This is the journal collection from 1974 to 1975, I want to say. But she was a prolific writer, May Sarton. She wrote journals and poems and like fiction and nonfiction and everything under the sun, it feels like, when I was looking her up. Like I said, this is an author I've been meaning to read for quite a while, and she has another journal. She's written many of them, but one of them is like, I think, more popular than this one, and I want to give that one a go, because the tone of this was just, I don't know, not something I want to exactly read right now. It was just not constant, but often, frequently throughout this book, contemplating death, contemplating what she would do if she got sick, because she's living alone in a sense, but she's also taking care of someone who is like slowly losing her mind, like dementia or Alzheimer's. So it dwelled a lot on getting sick, getting older, and dying. A lot of it. It was a bit too much for me. This takes place in Maine, and so that's why I wanted to on the beach, like on a house, like on the beach. So when it's like Fable, I see her doing something. I'm like, I'm watching you. But so yeah, being a beach house in Maine, and that's why I saved it for the summer. But it did not have any of the beach house feelings. It did, but not the tone that you would want. But yeah, let me know if any of you have read her. If there's another book in particular I should read, or just read the other popular journal. I will still give it a go. She was not a bad writer, just her thoughts I didn't exactly want to sit with all the time. And then as far as the books I am currently reading, I am listening to a fascinating, since I have my tablet out now, I was going to show you a book. I think I heard about this from Olive at a Book Olive, because she was mentioning how like one of her goals is to be on Jeopardy. That is not one of my goals, but I grew up watching this with my grandparents, and it's a show I've always enjoyed. I like how it isn't so like cutthroat, and it's like a simple, like, it's simple and laid back in a way, but you're still like, you're hitting that buzzer all the time, and you're trying, like the people or the contestants are. And then when I was in middle school, I competed on like a Jeopardy like team, because I've always like, with reading, I like reading all the different things, so I have some knowledge of a variety of things. I'm not well versed in any one particular thing exactly. Like, I can't do all of these answers, but I could do like some of the easy ones at least, and it's fun for me to watch and see, can I get one, especially like the last question. This is Answers in the Form of Questions: A Definitive History and Insider's Guide to Jeopardy by Claire McNair, and it has a foreword by Ken Jennings, who is the current host. But this seems to be published before Alex Trebek died. This is he's sick in this one, but he hasn't died. But it goes in depth on how the show was created and the people behind it, the people who are developing the questions and answers and things like that. And she sits down a couple times with Alex Trebek and talks about, you know, Ken Jennings and all these like different people who have tried to get on, people who have lost after one day, which is very common, of course, and then some of the winners are like the ones who got through multiple days and stuff like that. And so it has been very interesting to listen to. I'm listening to this audiobook. I have about a fourth of it left, but it's making, I haven't watched this show in forever because I don't have cable anymore, but I'm sure I can find it on YouTube or something, because now I just want to sit down and watch several episodes of this show. And so that's my audiobook. And then I know I mentioned this in the past, but I'm still making my way through the Alaskan Diaries and Letters of Libby Bowman from 1879 to 1880. This is called Libby. This is Elizabeth's story. She was very well connected with the Washington, D.C. government, and she was friends, not only her family friends, you know, on speaking terms and everything, with Abraham Lincoln and Mary Todd Lincoln. And then in 1880, Rutherford B. Hayes, I think, is the one she goes to, because her husband, after like 10 years, they're finally together. He had to go through school and like earn his living, and then so they finally get married after like 10 years from the time they met, until he can now like afford you know, supporting a household. But then he like almost immediately loses his job during this like crisis in the late 1870s, like economic crisis, and so he can't find a job at all, and different government agencies are closed, because when Hayes becomes president, he's closing all these different things after U.S. Grant was president to save some money and restructure things. But she goes to the president to ask, is there any kind of job that her husband can do to earn some living, because otherwise they're destitute. And so they get sent off to this itty bitty island, way up, almost in the Arctic Circle, all by, it's like part of the Aleutian Island, part of the Aleutian Islands, but not on that trail of islands off the coast of Alaska. It's, let me see if I can find it. It's like just by itself. They're on St. Paul, which is here. So you have like the strip of islands, and you have Russia here. So it's like one of these middle ones. And so very much isolated. So like right now I am on page 91. And there was a picture of what the Aleut people looked like, of one of the boys there, like how they were dressed and things like that. So she's the first white woman to, here's like a picture of like one of the houses. They're living in these earthen houses, and then within the last 10 years, some of the men, the Americans, have built homes for them. But they're, so far what I've learned about them, because like she's just now right on the island, this is her first week there, and she's talking about how they the people are heavily influenced by the Russians, because there is a Russian church there, and they all speak their own Aleutian language. I can't remember if it says yet what language they speak, but they also speak Russian. And so she's now embarking, after a week being there, she realized, oh, okay, I need to learn Russian to be able to converse with some of the women here, and have like tea with them and things like that. And so because like I guess Russia, she's talking about how like even more heavily than the British, the Russians, and then the Aleutians are very serious about their afternoon tea time. And so she wants to gather some of the local women to socialize and learn from them. But she needs to learn Russian first, and she's like talking about how she's never been good with languages, but there's a dictionary there, so she's gonna try and learn it. And so she's a very brave woman, I feel like, for going from DC, like you think about the travel you have to do, and from San Francisco to going like 1,000 miles plus up into an unknown area, and they're gonna spend 2 years there, and it's a very harrowing journey in a way, with like sailboats back in the 1800s. So yes, we will see what I think of this one. And then I'm almost finished with, I know I mentioned this a couple of times, but I know not everyone watches all my videos. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. I've been rereading this. And then I've been, because there's like 2 booktubers that are doing this reread leading up to the TV show that's coming out in end of this year. And so I haven't read this series in, I think almost, yeah, it's been like 10 years or so. So I was like, why not do a reread for it? And I have these pretty illustrated editions by Jim Kay. I'm just having the dust jacket here because like the books over there. But I'm almost at the end. I only have like 2 chapters left. And when I reread this 10 years ago, I want to say, Strip Cover Lit, the two like guys that were, like, had a really good banter. They were going through these books where one of them had read them for the first time, and the other one had grown up with them as a child. And so it was funny, like they had like this really good banter of like, one of them was just baffled by something, like, you know, because you're reading them as an adult for the first time, and the other one kind of like as time went on got swayed more to like the more negative opinion of the adult, which was, anyway, so it was interesting to see them. I feel like I'm not doing a good job of describing it, but so I've been rewatching that series from like 10 years ago, and it's been lots of fun, and seeing what they all have like picked up on, and they've been doing like 2 chapters a week, and so I've been, as I get through each 2 chapters, I've been watching it. But yeah, if you ever want to, like, they have much more like literary criticism than I would ever do, like thinking about so many little minor details and it's like really picking it apart, which is this fascinating way of reading a children's series. But yeah, I'll try to remember, leave a link in the description below to that series. And then the last book I'm in the middle of, along with like one book I don't have a picture of, is Persuasion. That's what I'm reading right now. But this is New England Indian Summer by Van Wyck Brooks. What I like about the like DeckofTBRathon is how I'm just like reading all sorts of things from my shelf, and here's the author on the back. I read the first book of The Flowering of New England a couple of years ago when I got that book, but I got this book at the same time, and it's just been lingering on my shelf. And I think this is the more well-known of that series than the first one. I mean, so far it's following just like the literary the literary history of Boston, starting in 1865. It's going from 1865 to 1915, when I think this book was published right around 1915. And so it's like going up to current day, which is over 100 years ago at this point. But I think because 1865 wasn't that far away from 1915, you're getting a really good, accurate description of like the people, and some of them I've already known about before. I just got to reading about Louisa May Alcott, who wrote Little Women, and I've read at least one, I think I've read 2 biographies of her and her family, which is like, her family is just fascinating. Her father, of course, is fascinating. He was ahead of his time in a lot of ways, and inspired daughter, of course. So yeah, I'm only a couple chapters in, but I wanted, because this is part of the DeckofTBRathon, I want to finish it before the end of the month so it can count. But even though I'm not submitting my points, I really should do that. I didn't do it this year. But I need to finish it by the end of the month. It's just giving me that motivation, and it's a chunkier book. I want to say it's over 500 pages, but I'm just reading a little bit each night. So that's, I wanted to, yeah, like I said, I want to sit down and catch you up. Sorry for the length of the video, but I wanted to, when you get talking about books, I can just like go on and on and on about all these books, considering like, yeah, there are all these different subjects and things. But we'll see what this next week brings me. I've been picking it hard every time I finish a book. So whether it's an audiobook or one of the physical books I'm reading, I just like, okay, what's this next card gonna be? I know the host for the event have been doing like these daily vlogs of the cards and what they've been picking each day. But some of the books I'm reading are bigger. I started the month reading the smaller books, but I'm like, no, I still want to read what I would normally read without having to focus on the slimmer books, because I know there's an event in September, Shorty September, where you're reading small books, so I want to save my small books for that. So yeah, they're taking me a bit longer, but I'm still going to get through, hopefully, quite a bit more of my cards and grow my ever-growing stack of cards here, and so I can maybe get closer to the 52. We'll see. But I will talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.